Come on, man.
Ants! Ants!
Go for it, dude.
It's Friday! Friday! Friday!
Yeah, and it already looks like it's one of those kind of days. So, John, hear you there. Thanks for dropping by on a Friday. Sorry about the late start. We'll get into that in opening kickoff coming up in just a little bit. Here's the rundown. We got stuff to talk about. We got yesterday to talk about. We've got Boxing Day to talk about. We got news of the morning to get into, gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. And at 10:30, Kaylor Hodges is going to join us and give the Christmas wishes and caviar dreams version of everything going on at the USL show. And when he comes back next week, we'll do New Year's resolutions and things like that. But it's more like Christmas gifts, lumps of coal. There have been some transactions. So we're catching up with Kaylor with everything going on in USL. And we'll do that coming up at 10:30. And we'll get you ready for the weekend as best we can. Monday, we'll be back in Office HD. So this is the last day in a while that we will be in this corner of the house, sitting on the floor in the corner and trying to have things work off of hotspots. So, so that's where we are this morning. And I think I have come to the conclusion that it may not even necessarily matter how I'm trying to get signals out. But if, in fact, there's cloud cover, and there was yesterday, that'll slow things down, and that'll, there was the one point where I believe Tom said that Robot John had showed up, those kinds of things. Like this morning, trying to play the Open to the show on a Friday, the Friday Open. And having things not necessarily quite go as well as they can. So we've got that idea. My guess is it may not necessarily matter if it's internal internet, if it's hotspot, if it's MiFi, if it's somewhere in the middle, if it's all of those in any manner, way, shape, or form. It may not matter that I'm sitting in the corner of the house on the floor in the corner bedroom near a electrical outlet that's charging things, and it just may be, it just may be that way. So that's where we are. I apologize for the voice. I've tried to go get some heavy artillery, and that was kind of part of why we're 25 minutes late this morning too, because the cold it's being a pain. So tried to go and get the heavy artillery this morning when the stores opened up here in the Central Time Zone. So, John, hear you there. Good morning, Pars. Morning, Abby. Morning, Alex. And so here's opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And so here is the QR code for those of you who are accessing us however you are doing so, large device or small. And you start your day with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You hit that QR code, you go to Kickoff Coffee, and when you're on your way out the door, don't forget to use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off your purchase. They in turn take 10%, reinvest it in youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So if you look in the Twitch pitch and you see the comments from Abby follows the boss on social media. And morning, Alex, morning, Tom. So Abby this morning, checking in as she always does. Long night at the ER. For those of you that do not follow the boss on social media, It was. That's also a reason why we're 25 minutes late this morning, because it was a long night in the ER. I will explain. We are, and you guys can comment along as you go. So I don't know how you are in your individual homes when it comes to holiday decorations and things like that. But as you know, every single year, every single Christmas, we're down here with Patty's mom, my mother in law, and we celebrate most of the gift giving and opening up and things that happens on Christmas Eve. Most of that stuff is opened because that's when the most people are here. Her sister and brother-in-law, they come with the nieces, and it's a big family thing. We have dinner, we cook out, and then they go and spend time with his parents about 2 to 2.5 hours from here, and that's how their Christmas morning starts. So Christmas morning, specifically in this house, is sleeping late. So we sleep late and kind of do nothing, and we'll watch TV and football and what have you. But then when you get to Boxing Day, everything's got to get packed up. You got to start packing everything up because it's no longer Christmas, and everything goes into plastic containers and goes back on shelves, and you're swapping out what was there on the shelves with what is there for 350 days out of the year, not the 15 that are in and around Christmas. And so you're swapping around the 350 days worth of material all over again. And so that entails taking the Christmas decorations after you've packed them back into their plastic containers. And I mean, these are plastic containers that are, they're the ones that are like the 3 feet long and the 2 feet deep, and you're packing everything, and everything has a place, and it's Jenga nicely, and everything goes in, and you take them up this hill. It's a 45-degree angle hill that is their backyard, and there are 2 storage sheds at the top of the hill at the back of the backyard from where the house is. I don't know if it's the back of the backyard or the front of the backyard, just depends on your perspective of things. So from the exit out the rear, the rear door, the back door heading to the backyard, it is at the back of the property, but it's at the top of a 45-degree angle, and you're going through all of these leaves and everything else that's there, and stuff that's fallen off of trees, limbs and nuts and berries and things. They're just all over the backyard. So you take the plastic containers, you take them up the 45-degree angle, you take them into the storage shed, you swap everything out, and that's kind of a whole afternoon activity. You take everything down from outside the house, it goes into the storage sheds too, and there is a specific packing plan that goes with all of this activity. So going into one of the storage sheds is straight walk-in. I mean, it is flat. You go in, you open the door, everything's fine, and you go from grass and leaves, and you go walking in, and it's straight shot. The other, because in years past it has held thick equipment and larger things that were easier to navigate, there's a ramp that doesn't have teeth or steps that's attached. So you go up this ramp, and like I said, it's a 45-degree angle ramp. And I mean, it's not the the biggest thing in the world, but it doesn't have any teeth to it. It doesn't have any steps. It doesn't have stages. It's basically a straight wooden ramp. And so you go walking up it, and if you don't have, and I go walking up it a lot, because I don't pack my tennis shoes, I'll have my loafers on, and I'm taking things up this ramp and down this ramp, and I'll slip, and I've slipped down this ramp before, full disclosure, wearing my loafers, packing things up in this higher shed of the 2. I have slipped and fallen and wiped out and, dirtied what's left of my jeans and that kind of a thing. So I have fallen victim to this ramp in the past. Yesterday, Patty fell victim to the ramp as she was taking things in, and she was taking things back and down. And so it was dark. And so she's coming down the ramp, and because of wet wood and because of leaves and because of all of these things that, that make the ramp what the ramp is, no teeth, no steps, no stages, wet, wet wood, wet leaves, the whole thing. She ends up wiping out and and falls down, and she ends up smashing her wrist in between herself and the wooden ramp. And wooden ramps, they don't give. So we spent 3 hours maybe in the emergency room of the local hospital. And instantly she comes inside. We put ice on the thing, and she was still able to maneuver around, and she could touch her fingers and do those kinds of things. Mobility was there. It was painful, but in the time in the ER, all of this stuff, by the time we were done, it was diagnosed as a boxer's fracture on the outside of her left arm. So basically, the boxer's fracture, they call it a boxer's fracture because it is, and the irony of Boxing Day. Oh, wow, I didn't just realize that until just now. So it is on the outside of the pinky, and if you look in between her fourth and fifth finger, the ring finger and the pinky finger, there's a big bruise like right in here. And so that was the start of it. They had the x-rays taken, and traditionally it is right at the base of the pinky where the pinky meets the fist. And so right in there's a hairline fracture. And so it's a boxer's fracture, they always say, because boxers that don't know how to box properly and land a punch properly, that's what they always end up, fracturing, is their smallest finger and the bones attached to the fist. And so that's what happened with the boss when she fell. Is it ended up being a boxer's fracture. Yep. Yeah. And it's fifth metatarsal fracture. Abby is absolutely correct. And so it's only hairline, and there's no displacement, but she now will be the proud owner. She already is the proud owner of a splint, and it goes up past the elbow and it goes all the way down. So that's where she is right now. She's in the splint, and they are eventually going to Monday. She's got an appointment with the doctor, our doctor, and then they're probably going to put a cast on it. And so it might be 4 to 6 weeks in a cast, and then physical therapy after the fact. Metacarpal attack. Yeah. Metatarsal's feet, right? Metacarpal. So Monday, we've got the appointment with her doctor, and he's going to look at it, and he's probably going to put the cast on it. And so that's where we are. So yes, it was a long night in the ER last night. So that was the end result. And so I have determined that I'm going to make sure that Patty finds her capes, because that's, when you have when you're not wearing jackets. I mean, she had my long overcoat last night when we were leaving the hospital. So, that's the bottom line. So for everybody that reached out on social media and on the page and everything, thank you for, And so, yes. Yeah. So, the boss is off. The boss is off camera right now, and she's doing the Taylor Swift love thing to everybody. And so, but no, for everybody that reached out and is reaching out on social media, thank you for your concerns when it comes to the boss. She's kicking herself. Like we've been talking about it. Like I said, I've fallen down that ramp. I wiped out, and I mean, I wiped out. I was just like slipping, sliding. My feet went up into the air, and my ass landed square on that ramp. I got lucky. She ended up with her fall after dark. She ended up landing, in between. And so it was so right there, boxer's fracture outside of the left fist right there. So on the fifth metacarpal. So that's where we are. So that's why we're 25 minutes late this morning, having to run errands, those kinds of things, and getting everything squared away. But Monday we'll be back in the office, and pray that we can, everything will be fine. And like I said, it's probably going to be a cast 4 to 6 weeks. So if you see us wandering around and you see her, they said that, you might be in a sling, you may not, but she was in it last night. So, but that's the big thing. Anyway, opening kickoff is the boss's injury. And yes, and making sure that everything is, and she's trying to figure out how to sleep more than anything because you have to keep it above your heart, those kinds of things. So it is a learning experience for all of us. That's opening kickoff, the boss's health. And brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. And once again, QR code, you go to Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You start your day there. And then what you do is you buy the store out. You kick off your day with our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. You buy the store out, but then you use the code soccer down here 15. So you end up buying the store out, and then you get charged 15% less because you use the code soccer down here 15. So 15% off that right there. And they in turn take 10% reinvest at youth games, youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. Okay. While we're here, time to go through all of the other things that are going on here in our universe. Once again, our collaboration with our friends at Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. I got mine delivered. It's got to go into the washer. And once again, you can get the Soccer is Just Better in Atlanta sweatshirt and t-shirt. You can get it there. There it is. Soccer is Just Better in Atlanta. You can get it in red. You can get it in black. You can get it as a sweatshirt. You can get it as a t-shirt. And then what you do with our friends at Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. is you help out middle school soccer programs that are attached to Atlanta Public Schools and help grow the game that way. You can get your sweatshirt, get your t-shirt, and they've got a lot of other cool stuff there at Grady Baby and Grady Baby Co. as well. But Soccer is Just Better in Atlanta. You can buy the gear, and you can help further middle school soccer programs attached to Atlanta Public Schools. Also on the board, friends from the Marshall Islands. That's the original jersey. And you can also go to their website for the Federation store, and you can pick up the scarf that was designed by us and that we can ship in and around the planet. And we have shipped them to Europe. We have shipped them all over the place. I shipped one to Missouri yesterday, as a matter of fact. And so that's their first jersey. They've come out with their new jersey. It is their new jersey, the 2030 no home jersey. And so you can get that, and you can go to their store, but get the Marshall Islands gear because it helps out build the program for the last country on the planet trying to have a national soccer program. And we need to catch up with our friends Lloyd and Matt and find out how things are going, because they have made forays into the Four Corners up in Northwest Arkansas and Oklahoma and Texas and Louisiana and Missouri, and they've been up in that particular part of the planet. The interview that we did with Katie Smith, the women's coach, is up on the network, so you can listen to that as well at any time. But buy the jersey, buy the gear, help out the Marshall Islands Soccer Federation as they continue to grow and try and have a national soccer program in Micronesia. So very, very cool stuff there from them as well. Also, we need you to vote. Vote, 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 vote. And this is where I get my banners in. So you have until the 13th. You have until the 13th, I believe, because then they do it virtually, the vote, and then you find out what happens at the end of January, I believe. It's not like it was with the Football Content Awards, where you end up voting, and it's 50% of the vote, where 50% of the vote is fan vote, 50% of the vote is judges. I don't know what the breakdown is, but sportspodcastgroup.com, you go into the sports category, Best Sports Talk Podcast, SDH Network is there. It is mind-blowing that we are, very humbling that we are. So vote, 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 vote for us. Like I said, I'm not going to condone or endorse, a voting bot. But I don't, like I said, I don't know what the percentages are. And I don't know what it means if you vote a lot. I don't know what the percentages are when it comes to voting in the Best Sports Talk Podcast category, but we are up against Bill Roden, the Bros Pod, some guy named Scott Van Pelt and Stanford Steve, the SV Pods over at the 4-letter, and some folks named Kelsey. So it's New Heights. It is the SV Pods. It is the Bros Pod with Bill Roden. It's us, and it's 8 others in the category for Best Sports Talk Podcast. You have until the 13th to vote. So vote, 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 vote. Vote early, vote often. Not that we would condone or endorse that kind of behavior, but vote for us in the Sports Podcast Awards for 2024. Very, very humbling year for us in season 7 as we get ready. Man, we're almost ready into season 8, but very, very humbling in season 7. Year 7, season 8, coming up at the end of January. Man, that'd be kind of a cool anniversary present, wouldn't it? Anyway, so vote early, vote often, and you get to be part of the growth. You get to be a part of the growth of the whole thing. So there you go. All right. So vote early, vote often. Vote early, vote often, vote early, and vote often. So there you go. Once again, sportspodcastgroup.com for those just listening. In the sports category, in the Best Sports Talk podcast, the SDH Network is there with New Heights, SV Pod, and the Bros Pod, and 8 others in the finals. And you have until the 13th of January to vote. So please vote early, and vote often. I think that's all the housekeeping this morning. I think. That was kind of also wanted to ask, how many of you went yesterday to the Boxing Day scarf exchange? So how many? Just asking. So how many, and what does it look like? Did y'all have fun? Was it cool? I saw some pictures about the scarf exchange. And so I wanted to know how many of you went, how many of you had fun, and how many of you got to partake, got up early in the morning on the 26th and went over and got to see what in the wide world of sports is going on. So hopefully you've got your scarves, hopefully you've got the investment, and hopefully that you're ending your year or beginning your year, however you wish to phrase, with a new scarf. So very, very cool stuff, as always, from our friends at Atlanta United. So Boxing Day celebration yesterday. Okay, so Abby says, have her call me to help with positioning. Glad I can still put my PT degree to use while in retirement. Wash it with vinegar to set the color for the first time. Okay. I will. It wasn't as crowded as it was in years past, according to Abby, but understandably so, because the weather apparently this weekend is supposed to be ish. So we'll see what happens. All right. Topics before Kaylor comes and joins us in about 40 minutes. There were a couple of things that I wanted to get into. Obviously, I wanted to get into what happened on Boxing Day yesterday. And the one Boxing Day that everybody kind of reminds us of was the one that happened, I want to say back in 63, where you had like 9 gazillion goals and you ended up with like an 8-2 and a 10-1 and stuff like that. And so I don't know. I don't think the Premier League yesterday went that crazy, but you did end up having some goofy results yesterday. And I know that Tom and Ropes and all of our resident Evertonians were very, very pleased with what happened early on as Erling Haaland missed the chance to give Manchester City full points, and it ended up being a 1-1 draw. And apparently Jordan Pickford and our resident Evertonians, oh no, Tom is still stuck in Richmond. Hopefully the car is ready at a reasonable enough time to get home tonight. Apparently Jordan Pickford was making enough faces to apparently, possibly, allegedly, probably disrupt the thought patterns of Erling Haaland as he was trying to send home a PK that would be the eventual winner. That did not happen. And the lineup availability yesterday for Manchester City, very, very thin out of the blocks. I know that a lot of you have an incredible amount of pity for Manchester City with the lineup that they had yesterday, but there were a lot of folks that were not in the lineup yesterday. And let me see if I can find the lineup yesterday. And I think it was Fabrizio Romano who had the lineup for Manchester City yesterday, just the lineup in general. And it was just nuts that you sit there and you look at the talent that was watching more than anything else, watching the match yesterday. And it was just insane when you think about it. Ruben Amorim has had his press conference this morning. We'll get into that in just a little bit. Mikel Arteta has had his press conference this morning. We'll get into that. Pep Guardiola earlier this morning. The transfer market in the winter is not easy, but we want players for the next 3, 4, 5 years. We're going to try because we cannot sustain for a long time to have so many players injured. That is absolutely true. And I will be intrigued to see who they go and chase after. And who they will bring in, who they're going to bring into the party, who they're absolutely going to bring into the party. So, 23 points in 18 matches for Spurs, another win for Forest yesterday. I did not have Nottingham Forest where they are in the table. I did not by any stretch of the imagination. So by the way, here's Manchester City's last 13 matches. 2-1 loss to Spurs, 2-1 loss to Bournemouth, 4-1 loss to Sporting, 2-1 loss to Brighton, 4-0 loss to Spurs, draw with Feyenoord 3-3, 2-0 loss to Liverpool, beating Nottingham Forest 3-0. It's the only win in their last 13. 2-2 draw with Palace, 2-0 loss to Juve, 2-1 loss to Manchester United, 2-1 loss to Villa, and a 1-1 draw to Everton. The last 13, one win. 12 points surrendered from winning positions. 28 goals conceded in the last 13 matches in all comps. That's where Manchester City is right now. Kyle Walker, Jack Grealish, Ederson, Nunez, John Stones not even on the bench for Manchester City. The starting 11 yesterday: Ortega, Lewis, Akanji, Ake, Vardiol, Kovacic, Bernardo, Savinho, Foden, Doku, and Haaland. That was what was available or chosen to be available yesterday for Manchester City. One win in their last 13. The result is not good, but the performance was brilliant. First half was brilliant until the penalty was really good. First time they arrived, they scored a goal. Of course, at the end on the transition, we could suffer the defeat. So that was yesterday in the 1-1 draw with Manchester City. 1-1 draw with Manchester City yesterday. So that was yesterday. One win in 13. That didn't hit me until I was just staring at it. One win in their last 13, and the only win was the win against Crystal Palace. The one against Nottingham Forest. One win in your last 13. Crazy. Bournemouth, Crystal Palace, who I still maintain is just happy that they're at the lunch table. Literally, they're the kid that wanders into school, and they see all the cool kids. They're like the new kid, trying to figure out where to sit. Biggest thing for them is just it's like, okay, can I sit in the lunchroom? If the jocks throw food at me, I'll just sit and take it. The fact is that I'm still sitting at the lunch table, or I'm still sitting in the cafeteria with all the cool kids. That's Crystal Palace to me. Bournemouth goalless draw. Bournemouth right now top half of the table. Fulham down 1-0, comes back to beat Chelsea 2-1. That was a stunner in and of itself. And there's a great article up in The Athletic about how Marco Silva and Fulham are creating second chances for players, and having all of these players creating second chances in the collective. You see where Fulham is right now. Newcastle 3-0 win over Aston Villa. Big result for Newcastle there. Forest with their one goal on the board, beating Spurs. That's all you needed. Forest, it was a goal in transition, and literally Forest is just running past the players from Spurs. Ends up in a 1-0 result for Forest. We'll get into the standings in a bit. West Ham scores late. Southampton still bottom of the table. Ivan Juric in his 18-month deal. I hope he's being paid well. That's all I can say. I hope Ivan Juric is being paid well to be the worst team in the Premier League. Wolves, probably one of the shockers of the day. 2-0 win over Manchester United. One of the One of the goals was an Olympico by Mateus Cunha. Welcome Vitor Pereira. 2-0 win, and the screaming that you heard was probably Drew Dickinson. I'm still waiting for my 3D. Maybe we'll get a 3D after festive fixtures. We'll see what happens. And then Liverpool 3-1 win over Leicester. And Leicester, that was a 1-1 game at one point. And then Liverpool just kind of put the pedal down, and they turned it into a 3-1 win. So that's where the results are after what happened yesterday, Boxing Day. So now your table, first goal interference on the goalie in the Manchester United match, according to Abby. We'll get into that on Monday. When Bart joins us on Monday, bookmark that, Abby, and we'll see what Bart says when it comes to reffing down here and what he thinks about that particular incident. So here's the table as it stands. 17 matches played. Liverpool has a match in hand. They're 42 points. 7 points clear. They've only lost 1 in 17. Chelsea right now, 35 points. They played 18. Forest is third at 34 points. I did not have this pictured. But, of course, the reigning skeptic in me continues to sit there and go, well, Evangelinus Marinakis isn't really one to sit there and stare at the rule book and go, I think I'll pay attention to the rule book. Keep an eye on PSR in the next couple of years, and let's see if Mr. Marinakis and Nottingham Forest have PSR issues, profit and sustainability rules. What are their losses? Are there losses that 305 pounds or 315 pounds over 3 years? Keep an eye on this. All this success for Nottingham Forest and Evangelinus Marinakis has been one not to sit there and go, well, I think I'll, It's success now and worry about it later. And we know what Nottingham Forest has been putting up with in years past when it comes to tribunals and such. So we'll see what happens with tribunals in future years. But the current success right now with Nottingham Forest cannot be denied. Doing really well with Matsel's in net, Chris Wood up top, great mix of players, and it's Nuno. I would not have anticipated Nuno Espirito Santo to be this successful either, with his traditional style of play that we're used to seeing. But right now, Nottingham Forest, third in the table. Arsenal, match in hand, they're at fourth. We'll get into juice boxes as a part of what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Newcastle right now in fifth, ahead of Bournemouth on goal difference. Manchester City is in seventh. They're out of Europa Conference League right now. Once again, if you add the 12 points that they've surrendered, they'd be in second place, which would be more what we would anticipate from Pep Guardiola and sides from Manchester City. But the 12 points they've surrendered would put them in second place. But they have surrendered them, therefore they are not there. 28 points, plus 4 in goal difference, they're in seventh. Ahead of Fulham on goal difference, well ahead of Villa on goal difference. That's 7, 8, and 9. 10th, Brighton is at 25 points. Spurs is 11th right now at 23. So is Brentford, well ahead of Brentford on goal difference. West Ham is 13th. Manchester United is in 14th. Once again, the screaming that you heard is Drew Dickinson with life at the 3D. Everton right now, and then we go to the gap that goes to the folks at the bottom. Everton ahead of Crystal Palace on goal difference at 17 points. That's 15 and 16. 17 is Wolves, 15 points. The win yesterday was huge. Got them out of the relegation zone. Put Leicester in the relegation zone. Leicester right now, 14 points, 3, 5, and 10, minus 18 in goal difference. They did not have Jamie Vardy yesterday. They sat him, considering schedule congestion and festive fixtures and all that. Ipswich, match in hand, 12 points. And then Southampton, 1 win in 18, 14 losses, by the way, minus 26 in goal difference. And they are at 6 points, and they are 9 points adrift, almost to the halfway point of the season. So that's where you are with where your Premier League update is, by the way. Yeah, and Rope said they said that Vardy had a knock. They did. But, I mean, this time of year, to be perfectly honest, if you've got a knock, I mean, how many managers are going to sit there and look at the schedule and go, yes, no, I need you here, I need you here, I need you later. So that's how I'm looking at it. Like I said, I mean, I'm looking at it just from that perspective of, okay, I've got 3 matches in like 9 days or 3 matches in 8 days or whatever it is. Because I was listening to the broadcast when I was out running errands yesterday. And Tom Rennie was doing it for Talk Sport, and he had mentioned that that Vardy had a knock. But once again, this time of year, Jamie Vardy, literally any star. And you look at what happened with Manchester City's roster yesterday with all of the injuries and knocks and things like that. You've got to manage all the different competitions that you're in, manage all the roster spots that you have, and try to just get through this time of year in one piece so you don't damage yourself later on. Just get through it. Literally, just get through it. That's kind of where we are. And then getting into what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Like since we're there, since we're here, we'll go ahead and get into it. We'll get into juice boxes for today and for tomorrow, and we'll let you know where things stand. And I'm having to do this once again. I'm on multiple devices. I have the one that I'm staring at with all of you. I have cell phone, which is a hotspot, which is hopefully getting the signal out, not turning me into Robot John. And then I have tablet that is charging and hopefully is something that I can read and be informed. Like I said, coming up in just a little bit, there's a story that was in Sportico that I wanted to get into. It has to do with MLS Next Pro. And I thought it was an interesting story to get into, involving minor league baseball ownership and their next frontier. And so, like I said, it was a Sportico piece that I thought was really interesting, and we'll get into that in the future of MLS Next Pro, considering how much time we here at SDH spend on MLS Next Pro, flagship for Atlanta United 2 in audio, all the content that we give when it comes to MLS Next Pro. Like I said, I just thought it was a very interesting look at where things stand, possibly one possible outcome with MLS Next Pro. Today, you've got 2 matches, and you actually get a day off. Nothing on Saturday, which is weird, but once again, festive fixtures and all. Brighton and Brentford is at 2:30. So 2:30 Eastern time. Brighton's a minus 156. Draws a plus 334. Brentford a plus 384. 315. So basically at halftime of match number 1. Arsenal and Ipswich. Arsenal, big favorite. Ipswich, by the way, is in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal, is a plus 1657. So if you have some spare juice boxes hanging around in the back that maybe have an expiration date that you don't want to touch, or that might smell a little funny, if you want to just put that juice box on Ipswich at plus 1657, you can go ahead and do that. And then everything picks back up on Sunday. Leicester hosting Manchester City at the King Power. Manchester City minus 294. Heading to the King Power, and Leicester is almost a plus 700. 10 o'clock, Crystal Palace minus 164 hosting Southampton. Southampton's a plus 438. Everton a plus 163 hosting Nottingham Forest at a plus 181. Fulham plus 134 at Craven Cottage hosting Bournemouth at a plus 191. And Spurs a minus 167 hosting Wolves, who are basically a plus 350. 12:15 Eastern time on Sunday. West Ham a plus 602 in the composite hosting Liverpool, who's the minus 256. Then Monday you have 3, and it is Aston Villa minus 105 hosting Brighton. So Brighton plays today, and then they turn around and play on Monday. Friday, Monday for Brighton. Thanks for dropping by. Brighton's a plus 260. Villa's a minus 105. Ipswich at 245 is a plus 579 hosting Chelsea at a minus 238. Manchester United and Newcastle. We'll talk about this one again once again when we're back in the office on Monday. Manchester United a plus 170 at home. Newcastle basically a plus 150. And they have the one match on New Year's Day. Brentford, by the way. So Brentford is playing. It's not as bad as Brighton, but it's Friday, Tuesday for Brentford, Friday, Monday for Brighton. And so it is a Brentford a plus 483 at the G-Tech hosting Arsenal is a minus 200. So that's your juice boxes for the Premier League for the weekend. All right, so gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. We'll get into that. And then there's the story I wanted to get into with MLS Next Pro and future investment before Kaylor Hodges joins us in about 20 minutes. So when it comes to what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, and all of the gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and who might be coming because of the transfer windows, all these kinds of things. Remember, January is when the fun starts. And then you got Major League Soccer who gets to stare at things and wait until the end of the month and see how things kind of calm down. But we mentioned Miguel Almiron and the possibilities of Miggy coming back to Major League Soccer. Charlotte seems to be interested. Now, remember in the past that Charlotte was in the process of trying to negotiate to bring Miguel Almiron back to Major League Soccer from his time at Newcastle. And the player, which probably means the player's agent, they had agreed on certain things, but they had not agreed on personal terms and things like that. So transfer fee, I don't think Charlotte was, that they were all that and trying to, sit there. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll agree to the transfer fee and all these kinds of things. But then when it came to salary and salary structure, that seemed to be where things got a little fuzzy. And it ended up where Charlotte was not bringing Miguel Almiron in, at least for round number one. Round number two, they're back to being interested. But apparently also is Botafogo. Remember Botafogo? Thiago Almada, Botafogo? Eagle Football Holdings. So in a way, Miggy could be loaned to Crystal Palace as long as John Textor is attached to them. He could go to Lyon and could go hang out with Thiago Almada, or he could go to Botafogo and they could start the Botafogo Express all over again. So there are reports that Botafogo is interested in Miguel Almiron. And I could see Miggy being more interested in going to Botafogo than I could him going to see Charlotte. Question to the floor. If it got to the point to where Charlotte was getting close, let's say Botafogo's not involved. Or if they are, Botafogo's just kind of hanging out. They're kind of seeing where the landscape is. Here's your question. Would you, would you want Atlanta United to punk Charlotte and bring Miggy back just so he doesn't go to Charlotte? Jordan says he'd love to have Miggy back. No to him to Charlotte. Abby's like, I would hope Atlanta United will do what they can to not have Miggy go to Charlotte. And Abby's like, hell yes. Jordan, yes, please. So I see that any opportunity to punk Charlotte would be to bring Miggy back. Tom, I'd take him back regardless of Charlotte's interest. And then Michael Valverde, good morning. Anytime Miggy folks show, I believe I said that properly. So the conventional wisdom here in the Twitch pitch this morning is that any time that you can punk Charlotte, you want to punk Charlotte, but compound it with the idea that it's Miggy, and then you're going to go ahead and do that. Alex, Alex says, I don't do anything to keep Charlotte from doing something. I'd only do what's good for us. But then would it be, do you think it would be good? Let me go to point number 2. Would it be good, say, to have Charlotte. Would it be good in your collective? Would it be good to have Miggy back? And you'd be punking Charlotte in the process. Jordan says that it would help put more butts in all of the former STMs back in the Benz, season ticket members. So, all right. So that is the early conventional wisdom. You want Miggy back. And it seems like from all indications, the transfer fee would be manageable. But remember, right now, but I still think that Botafogo would be the place to go. I think he'd be more keen on Botafogo than he would be Charlotte in the first place. And looking at Celtic right now with Atlanta United and the past connections with Ronnie Dyla, looking at Palma and Kyogo, those may be the initial thought patterns for to what the what the idea would be for a possible future. So because of the Ronnie Dyla connections in the past, keep an eye on Palma, keep an eye on Furuhashi-san. That might end up being your priorities for Atlanta United, in as much as you stare at the shiny object that is Miguel Almiron, and then you punk Charlotte in the process. But my gut tells me I don't think it gets that far. I think what ends up happening is that you have Botafogo really interested, and he goes to Botafogo, and then you start the Botafogo Express, much like we saw with Thiago Almada. You're at Botafogo, win title, goes from Botafogo to Lyon. But we all know about Lyon right now and their conditional relegation because of their inability to make ends meet. How does all this fit together? That's the big question. Like I said, January's coming up, and we'll hopefully get some answers. Okay. He came in early. I'm not going to complain because we get to talk things. We get to officially talk things with Kaylor Hodges. And for Kaylor to come in during the holiday season, I give him full, hearty handshakes. And there's Kaylor, by the way. Kaylor and I are in the same time zone today, by the way. We are sharing the same time zone.
Oh, what are you doing in the best time zone?
I am here with the mother-in-law. I am here at the mother-in-law's palatial estate, and we are here for the holidays. So this is our last day here. And but no, we always come down here for Christmas and come over here into God's time zone. Just ask the boss about it being God's time zone. So yeah, I am about 2.5 hours south of you.
Gotcha.
I am in Ozark. I'm 20 miles north of Dothan. So that is where we are. But I wanted to bring you in this week and next week to kind of break up the holidays and put the USL Championship and League One into the context of the holiday season. Yeah. And also wanted to ask you what you thought about USL Super League at the interval, and just kind of philosophical stuff along the way. So let me start there. Before we get into the fanciful stuff, when you look at USL Super League, what has been your overarching thought about the league quality of play, that kind of stuff? I want to use that as the entry point to our conversation this morning.
I mean, my initial thoughts is that it's a talented league. Talented. You have young talent, you have older talent who's trying to extend the career, but mostly it's your sort of on the younger side getting into the prime of their career talents. And I think what really stood out to me about the Super League is how many young college players in the US simply did not get a chance because the NWSL was the only professional option in the United States. There is no Division II, there's no Division III, WPSL Pro on the way, but beyond the point, there was only one option, and there were so many quality players that just never got a chance, and they are shining. They are legitimate superstars in this league. That isn't to say that the quality is as good as NWSL, because NWSL is arguably the best women's league in the world. So there's going to be obviously a gap there. but I was a bit surprised on how quickly talent and tactics merged because it's a brand new league. These players have never seen each other before. Maybe some have, but I doubt it. And it came together quicker than I thought it would, and I was very surprised.
When you look at markets and attendance figures, I know that you look at a team like Dallas playing in the Cotton Bowl. Great idea. I love the fact that you want to dive into the Cotton Bowl and play if you're Dallas. With what we're seeing in a lot of other places, you had venue issues. You had to change stadia in the Northeast, specifically with Brooklyn. I know that Maimonides ended up being part of the discussion, and the pronunciation of Maimonides came into the discussion a lot about where Brooklyn's going to be and these kinds of things. Outside of quality of play, which is there, when you look at the markets and the venues and the attendance, what are your prevailing thoughts there from what you got to see in the Apertura?
I I think that you see that there's excitement there. I mean, the shining moment here is, of course, Carolina sent close to selling out their inaugural game. They never quite reach up to that same level of hype again. Um, I think if you're looking at atmosphere, I think that you're looking at your Tampa Bay Suns and honestly Dallas Trinity, despite being in a mammoth of a stadium, their atmospheres are really good. The the environment's great. I think when you start looking also at Spokane Zephyr, where they've been kind of around where they are for the velocity, they stay around 2,000, 3,000 people. That's about right. Um, I think when you start getting the drop off, when you get to Fort Lauderdale, when you get to DC Power, Lexington, Brooklyn, that's where you're starting to see the problems. And Brooklyn is its own thing. It's hard to be a professional club in New York City. We when we compared New York to places like London, we all want to say New York can be London. Look at how much places there are. Like there's so many people. And then we get to the next part is where will they play? And that's the issue. Um, so I'm going to kind of ignore Brooklyn
Okay.
just
All right.
because it's bizarre.
Okay.
Um, DC Power, you're sharing a stadium with 2 to 3 other teams depending on the time of year. You're looking at Lexington, who has to compete with not only Kentucky basketball, a good Kentucky basketball team, on top of not being very good, and their men's team was really bad. Um, I think that Lexington is a symptom of the entire club, the men's side and the women's side, not being successful on the field this year, and their main competitor in the city is really, really good. As for Fort Lauderdale, they have potential. I just think they need time. I think that it's going to be one of those things that it can grow, but
Uh-huh.
getting attention down towards Miami when you have options to do anything that you want, you're going to have to fight for it. I do think that in the end, the attendance numbers look scary compared to what we're used to seeing in like MLS and even NWSL. But if you compare these attendance numbers to something like the Women's Super League in England, the top flight, the numbers aren't too dissimilar because in the end, women's soccer is still growing and people still need to catch on and people need to get over what men's soccer versus women's soccer looks like. I think that just in general, you're just kind of seeing the difference between men's soccer and women's soccer in terms of people who are willing to give it a chance because the people who give it a chance keep going back.
So, since you opened the Lexington door, let me go ahead and go into it and use that as the the opening point as a part of our USL Championship discussion.
Mm.
They're not shy. They're not shy about grabbing folks, and they're not shy about filling out a roster. They brought in Danny Barbier from the Miami FC. Of course, I think the Miami FC. They had their off-season roster announcement the other day, and I think that they announced that 5 players, literally, I think it was 5 players that were not going to be a part of things, and that future roster discussions were going to be coming in the upcoming days. I don't know what the Miami FC is going to look like, but you bring in Danny Barbier from the Miami FC. Lexington SC is not afraid to splash the cash in this first season in USL Championship. When you look at what they're trying to do coming up from League One, what are your early returns?
I think that this quasi promotion is arguably the best thing that could have happened to Lexington after a year like last year, because they splashed the cash last year and they decided to make a bizarre coaching hire, and it didn't work. And now that they're going up and they have a new coach, they can almost act like an expansion team. They can pick and choose what they want. They have a couple pieces coming in, but when we say a couple, we mean like 4. They are essentially an expansion team, and they're willing to splash the cash, and they're not doing a dissimilar thing that Rhode Island did last year. What Lexington is missing is the superstar insane signing. Although I do think players like Logan Ketterer and people like Jacob Green are going to be 2 players that you are going to see that are going to be more impactful than you think. But I think that they're still missing a real deal superstar from this most previous season. We know what Atis Juve can be. We know what Cameron Lancaster can be. But I think they're missing someone from 2024 being an absolute superstar to really bolster this team. But I like the direction that they're going. I think that they are instantly making themselves competitive. At the very least, they have championship level talent, which we see with teams like the Miami FC, like you mentioned, did not fill their roster with championship talent. And so I think that you're going to see a big improvement on the field from Lexington.
Kaylor Hodges from at the USL show, at Kaylor Hodges. I know that surprises you that might be his 280 character handle, and that there is no off season. And Ewan is saying Lexington have Speedy Williams apparently.
Speedy Williams, Lexington does have Speedy Williams. Lexington has Speedy, and Speedy was one of the catalysts for Colorado Springs to win their championship. I think that he was one of the main reasons they were able to compete. However, I do think that him being more of the deeper lying playmaker, while important to Lexington, I don't think he's going to be the game changer in its current iteration. However, Speedy Williams is one of those players who is a game changer if you have other game changers around him, if that makes sense. He can only do his work if he has people to get the ball to. And right now, I don't really see that out of Lexington. I think if they get a really good midfield option, someone like a Knight Pickering, someone like a Bruno Lapa, someone like a Panos Amarnakis, I'm just naming off Memphis players because they have to sign somewhere. I think that you're going to see Speedy Williams. You're going to see Speedy Williams be a really good option. But until then, Speedy is, I just don't know if he is that same. I don't know. He's not the same 2018 Louisville City Speedy Williams that we all got used to. He's just a different player now.
All right. So since you mentioned Memphis, let me ask about Memphis. We fell in love with Nigel Pickering with his time at Memphis 901. What is the status of all these dudes? I know they're free agents and they're more than happy to go and negotiate with anyone and their mother and your mother if they want to. Is anyone tied to Santa Barbara and going to go out on loan this? What is the deal right now with the folks that are were attached to Memphis 901?
So technically, no one is attached to Santa Barbara at all. This is not like a relocation of a franchise a la Oakland to Sacramento in Major League Baseball. This is a brand new organization. This is a brand new franchise. Okay. The only thing that has changed is the actual franchise, like rights. But this is a completely different organization, completely different. So no one is tied to Santa Barbara. Absolutely no one. They're all free agents. Um, there, there is no doubt that Memphis has some of the best free agents here. I think that when you are looking at the players who are available, they are the pick of the bunch. I mean, they are just loaded. I think that this is it's awful for Memphis fans, and I cannot reiterate that enough. But if you are a USL fan who wants to see the talent disperse from there, the league just got better because good teams are about to get great players. And the strength of the league is about to get a lot better at the expense of course, Memphis.
Neil Collins, the head coach in Sacramento. What say you, Kaylor Hodges?
Wow. Usually stuff like this, I get a couple of days heads up. I was stunned. I think the bigger part of this from Wraith Rovers, the Scotland, where he ends up going after leaving Crawley Town, after being fired from Crawley Town, despite getting them into the playoffs, which was bizarre in of itself. He signed a 3-year deal with Wraith. And then he, in his first year, they start to get the ball rolling. They had a rough start, but they really start to get things going. And Sacramento pays his release clause. Now, this does not mean that he has to go. In fact, Wraith Rovers made this very clear when they said, we sat down with Neil and tried to convince him to stay, but he said no, he wanted to go back to the U.S., which I found that fascinating that A, they would put that in their press release, but B, what did that mean for Neil? Was his move to Scotland just bait for him to go back to the US all along? I find it absolutely fascinating. But if you're going to replace Mark Briggs, which was an insane decision on Sacramento's part, and I'm still not convinced that it was the right decision, you could not have made a better hire. There is not a better hire in this world than Neil Collins to Sacramento, especially when you look at the current roster construction. It's as good as it gets. This is as good as it gets if you are Sacramento. It's just a bombshell of a decision.
So then, since you mentioned Briggs, let me ask about Briggs. What is his future? Does Santa Barbara take a flyer on Briggs and let him build that franchise down there? I mean, Western Conference, he knows what it means to be in the Western Conference. Does Santa Barbara take a flyer on Briggs? What's the future for Mark Briggs?
I don't know. I don't know. I would not be shocked if he goes back to England. He does have his ties to West Brom and just the Midlands in general, so I wouldn't be shocked if he takes a lower league position somewhere in League One, League Two. I was thinking maybe San Antonio could be his landing spot. They've showed that they were willing to put some money, but that's not the case. San Antonio has their coach. There's only one team right now that doesn't have a coach, and that's the Miami FC in the championship. Which it would be the funniest option, but I would hate it for Mark. He's a nice guy. He doesn't deserve that. So I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay. All right. Well, someone that does know is Dennis Sanchez, and he goes from Vegas to New Mexico United. Obviously, we know the moving chairs and New Mexico United A to B to C, but Dennis Sanchez, Coach of the Year finalist, after taking Vegas Lights to the Western Conference Final, leaves Vegas, where they had invested. They had invested for the first time in modern memory, and you saw what you could do in Vegas with investment. So Dennis Sanchez thinks that New Mexico United is a greener pasture than what was being created in Vegas.
I think that Vegas situation's hard because you are essentially starting a club from the ground up. I know there's 5 years of experience, but boy, is it bad experience. I think that
Yeah.
I think people underestimate how good of a job New Mexico is because people see the lab. People
Mhm.
see how bad the stadium situation is, but they're building their own stadium. I think it was like fully passed on by the city. I think it's happening. Um, and
Yep.
so
Yeah.
if you look at New Mexico, they have spent on their roster. They are not afraid to spend money on their
Mhm.
roster. When you look at fan support, they have the highest attendance in the league every single year. I think Sacramento might have beat them because they had the 125,000 game when they played at another stadium. But when you look week in, week out, New Mexico does not go below 10,000 people. They are regularly around like 10 to 13,000 people. When you look at that kind of atmosphere, it's hard not to be allured by that. When you look at the connection to the community and how invested they are into the community, that right now they're doing it better than Las Vegas. And like I said, they have spent on that roster. They have spent. And if you are telling Dennis Sanchez, hey, look at how much money we've spent in the past, and we'll let you spend this money on whatever you want to build your dream team, it's hard not to say yes to
Yeah.
that. It's so hard not to say yes to that.
Just running through some of the other transactions that I'm staring at here. Lexington, we've mentioned they signed Danny Barbier, but they also bring in League One Young Player of the Year Alfredo Midens, which I
Mhm.
thought was a decent pickup. But once again, you're
Yep.
talking the economics that are attached to that. I mean, that's a solid investment there. They added Dylan Borzak and Jacob Green.
Mhm.
Emilio Icaza signs a multi-year extension with the Charleston Battery. Tristan Traeger goes to Orange County for 25, which I find, I mean, he stays obviously in the Western Conference, stays close to home, but he just kind of shifts from NoCal to SoCal. I'm trying to, Macaulay Akale got his contract option exercised by New Mexico United. Florian Velo signs a new deal with Loudoun United. Gregor Hurst back to New Mexico. Mentioned Speedy Williams, Fanuel Kavita, multi-year extension with Birmingham. And you mentioned Logan Keller with Lexington as well. Anybody else stick out to you that we haven't talked about in the
Um,
USL Championship?
well, when you mentioned, oh my gosh, I am totally losing. He just went to Orange County. We just talked about it. Oh my word.
Oh,
Whatever.
Tristan Traeger.
Traeger, thank you.
Tristan Traeger.
Last time I was on, that was the signing that I was alluding to with Orange County,
Okay.
with another one that's huge coming up, in my personal opinion. They have another big signing on the
Okay.
way if it hasn't already been announced. So be on the lookout. Orange County, sneaky number one pick right now out of the West with what they've already done and has
Okay.
not been announced. Um, but
Okay.
I honestly, not really. I think that when I am looking at what's going on out in just the leagues all around, I think where I'm looking down at is
Mhm.
Naples. What Naples is building down in League
Yeah.
One, I'm intrigued. I am very, very intrigued.
Okay.
You look at Lala Delgado, who, for all intents and purposes, my goalkeeper of the year last year. Jake Dingler, one of the best center backs in the league last year. Kevin O'Connor has a good track record coming into this. They have Ian Serra, who is a nice upcoming superstar of the league right now. They just made another signing today that was pretty big, and I'm trying to remember his name, but he has U.S. Youth National Team appearances. He has been really, really good. Tyler Pasnick, he was with the Huntsville City, and he has that U.S. Youth National Team experience. Slowly but surely, they're building a formidable squad down in Naples. They said they were going to go big. And they also have their connection with Naples United, whom they seem to be pretty friendly. And I would not be surprised if there's some local Naples product coming up through that team. I'm very intrigued on what Naples is doing down in League One.
Yeah, you mentioned Tyler Pasnick joining Naples, the previously called into youth national training, U.S. youth national training camps. Scottish midfielder Westchester SC is adding folks. Powder, Connor McGlynn, Stephen Payne, and looks like Blake Malone, Charlie Ostrom. 7 coming back. AV Alta adding Jimmy Villalobos for their campaign. So I mean, things are starting to come together for franchises. One more thing about Lexington before we get into League One and other things. Lexington ends up being a wild card for the Western Conference. So welcome to USL Championship. You're the one that gets to do all the traveling.
I think there's a side of this that makes sense. They're the new team. There's already kind of established rivalry stuff going on. I think that if we're going to read kind of between the lines or under the surface, Lexington has one of the richest owners in the league. And if there's anybody that can take the hit of traveling around the United States, one of the rich horse guys in the U.S., seems like someone who's a good option to be forced to deal with that paycheck.
Okay. All right. Just checking. I mean, it was one of those things that kind of stood out to me. Greenville Triumph added Ropapa Mensa. You mentioned Jake Dingler as a part of the FC Naples brigade. Kamar Lawrence goes back to New York. He becomes the inaugural signing for Westchester. Portland Hearts of Pine have started signing folks. When you look at everything starting to come together in League One, what sticks out so far? Who has filled out their Christmas list to the way that you thought they should have in USL League One?
I do like
Other
what
than
I've seen out
Naples.
of right. I do like what I've seen out of Westchester. Connor McGlynn did not get a bunch of playing time with Rhode Island, but he was arguably one of the best midfielders in 2023. That talent is still there. Stephen Payne, for all of my intents and purposes, besides Bruno Rendon, he was the best fullback in the league last year, wingback in the league last year. That's a heck of a player to start off your team with. Now, you do have a couple of other college players, and I'm not going to act like I know who Kamar Lawrence is or Samry Powder is. I haven't watched film yet. So I can't really speak on that. But when you look at the established players, McGlynn and Payne are two of the best that you can start off with. I'm loving what they are doing. After that, I don't really know because right now League One is still in its we are kind of alive, we're kind of not. I think, and we do this every year with League One, where League One is kind of waiting for the championship to sort itself out and to see who the followers of the league are going to be, who's going where. I don't think that League One has enough for me to really chew on. However, with the players that someone like the Richmond Kickers are bringing back, I really like it. I really like this lineup as currently constructed. I think they have a wonderful core to build on if they want to continue to do it. I think that they are going to be great. I'll just be interested. I'm still kind of just waiting to see more of everything to come together for League One because right now they're still kind of in a hiatus.
Okay. I've got one other topic I want to get into you with, but BLT Gamers wants to know what you think, sir, about El Paso Locomotive. What do you think about El Paso Locomotive? And welcome, BLT Gamers, by the way.
I think that when you look at their general core, it's not bad. I think you are going to look at a Meshabane, you're going to look at Ortiz, you're going to look at Cavallo, you're going to look at Dolomeyer, who's great. You're going to see Jamali Waite, Bolu Akinyote is one of the best midfielders in the league. And on top of that, you re-sign a Memo Diaz, who is a local talent who played with El Paso before, has come back from Oakland. I think that they have a core there that can be competitive, but we said that last year too. This is a largely returning core that we said last year would be really good. That was not. However, we saw Wilmer really turn things around, and I'm going to be cautiously optimistic about El Paso. Now, cautiously optimistic means finishing 10th or ninth as opposed to 12th. Um, I don't know
Yeah.
what their plan is. They have spent in the past. Granted, that's part of the reason that Lowry left is that he wasn't given the full go to spend all of the money. I think that it's go time for El Paso. If they don't spend money this offseason, they need to really look in the mirror and decide what they want to be because they're not giving chances to their local youth products. They just signed one to a deal, which I think was Quezada, I believe. He was an El Paso
Yeah.
youth product, but for the most part, they are just going with tried and trusted USL talent, but it hasn't been good enough. So they need to decide: do we want to be the team that plays our youth, or do we want to go out and spend? Because you could do this middle ground with MLS2 teams around. You can't do it anymore.
Last topic I wanted to get into you this time before next week when you come back, New Year's resolutions for franchises and such. Expanded Jägermeister Cup. We knew this was coming.
Yeah.
We didn't know when. Now we know when. And now you've got expanded Jägermeister Cup with your crossover with USL Championship and League One. What do you think?
I love it. I straight up love it. I think that this is something that's been needed for a long time. I think that I think that championship teams are about to be in a shock on how good League One is. For a lot of teams, they see League One players and they see that's a step below. And they'll say, well, we're clearly better than them. And you'll see a couple of upsets in the US Open Cup, but everybody just kind of says, well, that's the US Open Cup. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. You're about to see an extended tournament where I think that there's going to be a couple League One teams to make an absolute run. And I would not be shocked to see if 1 to 2 League One teams in the semifinals of this thing. I think that the gap is that small. I do think that you're going to see this is going to open the door for more championship clubs to see how good players are in League One and take more risks on signing those lower league players. There's still some teams who have not taken that jump that are kind of elitist and say, well, we're in the championship, they're in League One, and that's for a reason. There's a reason for that. The reason is because you haven't done enough scouting and you just don't understand how good these players are. I think there's going to be a lot more of, man, that player absolutely kicked our tail. We better sign him next year. I think that's going to be great. I also think that if they keep the rules from last year of the tiebreaker being goals scored, not goal difference, people, goals scored. I think you're about to see some incredible matches
Yeah.
where League One teams are not going to go into away stadiums and just park the bus to try to get a result. That's not the goal. The goal is to score goals. I think you're about to see absolute track meets that is going to be a different kind of what's the word? A product than the US Open Cup, where it's survive, try to counterattack, get a goal, maybe end it in 90, pray we get to penalties and win. Not going to happen here. They are going to go for goals. And I think you're about to get a fun product from this. And I think that if the USL markets this correctly, if the USL makes it very obvious, hey, this is a Jägermeister Cup match and forces its teams to market this differently and actually market it, I think this is going to be one of the biggest successes the league has had in about a decade.
Look at group number 3. Birmingham, Chattanooga Red Bulls, Forward Madison, Indy 11, 1 Knox, and FC Tulsa. And look at group 6. Charleston, Greenville, the Miami FC, Naples, Tormenta, Tampa Bay. Those are the 2 off the top of my head because I just stared at the groups and I'm like, okay. I think those 2 groups will be the 2 groups so that when you're looking for somebody to come up and bite you, those will be the places where it's going to happen. What is going on here during the holidays with at the USL show?
Right now, we're kind of figuring it out. We're going to be coming back next week. Will that be next year at that point? Maybe. I don't know.
Mhm.
But we're gonna be back next
Mm,
Tuesday. We're
yeah,
gonna
it will.
be
Because today's I think so.
look at that.
You're close. I think you're close.
But yeah, so we're gonna be doing more of this like kind of transfer tracker and a little bit more auxiliary, like those little tier lists that everybody loves and that kind of stuff. But we are working on a history of USL. We said it last year, but we've really started. We're diving in. And so right now I'm in the middle of the research of doing the first ever USL season, which goes all the way back
Oh,
to
wow.
the Southwest Indoor League, which would eventually become the USL, which I just have to share my favorite team name of all time. What do you know about the Soccerdillos?
Mhm.
I, I mean, come on. We need to have more teams named the
I would
Soccerdillos.
I would imagine that's Amarillo, just off the top of my head.
I
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
think it is.
I'm stuck in, like, Zalt and things like
I'm trying to remember who the Soccerdillos actually. Oh, it's the Austin Soccerdillos.
that. Okay. Okay.
It's
Alright.
a fun name.
Well,
We need to bring that
as
back.
this project Oh, no doubt. The Soccadillos, but you gotta find the right market for it. Talk to Michael Hitchcock. I'm sure that he'll wanna, bring something like that back into the process. So I'll shoot you an email, and we'll figure out what day. I don't know what your New Year's plans are. I don't know if you're gonna try and burn down the Sloss furnace or anything like that on New Year's or anything, but we'll come back next week. We'll do New Year's resolutions, other news, those kinds of things. So when you guys are up and running, you guys are up and running at the USL show. He is at Kaylor Hodges. I know that's a shock that those would be his Twitter handles. But as always, my friend,
Yeah,
great to see you. Did
good
you
to
get the
see you.
pony for Christmas, by the way? What'd you get? Yeah.
No pony. Did get got a drill, which is awesome. Drill and bits, which we actually did need, so that was great. And we just
Okay.
got what they give every young couple, lots of money, and say, we don't know what you need. Go buy something, which I'll always accept.
Very good. Yes. And so will old married couples too.
Yeah,
Be safe, my friend. Happy New Year. We'll catch up with you next week. I think we might catch up with you before 2025 starts. It just depends on
maybe.
where things are. But be safe. Get out of here. We'll catch up with you next week, my friend. Yeah, I think so. I think we'll check on your normal Tuesday visit and we'll go from there. All right. We'll see you next week.
See you soon.
All right. Be good. That's Kaylor. Uh, Kaylor puts up with me on a weekly basis. And there's a lot to talk about in USL. And as more happens in USL when it comes to championship and League One and all these kinds of things and Super League, it's always fun to catch up with him because it's silly season, but it's not, it's not always silly season. And there's always plenty to talk about. Okay. News that came across while we were talking. And remember the Yasmin Ryan deal that we talked about in the NWSL? It's now officially official. Dash acquire Yasmin Ryan from Gotham plus 80,000 in intra-league transfer funds for 2025. Houston sends 400,000 in allocation money plus an international roster spot for the 2025 season to Gotham. TCU made her women's national team debut October 24th of this year in a victory over Iceland. Ryan named to the 2024 NWSL Best 11. Second team won 2 NWSL championships. Quote from interim dash interim GM Eric Ustruck. 2 sentences. Goes into her career. Quote from Yasmin Ryan. A couple of sentences. Goes into the stats. So Big 12 Championship 2020, Mac Hermann Trophy Award semifinalist in her final season with TCU. U.S. soccer coaches, top drawer, all Big 12, first team in 21, 23, and 23, and 75 appearances for TCU. So the Yasmin Ryan deal is officially official. That happens this morning. From Ben Jacobs, Barcelona have lost an appeal for the precautionary registration of Dani Olmo for the rest of the season. Means Olmo may not be able to play for the club from January 1st, since in registering him, Barcelona would be in breach of La Liga's wage cap rules. La Liga say, quote, None of the necessary conditions for the adoption of an interim measure to register Olmo until summer of 2025 have been met. Barcelona have filed a new appeal to the magistrate court, which is due to be heard, on Monday. So the Danny Olmo situation continues to continue. And so keep an eye on that. So I'm trying to see what other news is available before we get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and see what is going on. So, so we'll see what's going on there, and I'm trying to see if there's anything that I have missed. I'm trying to see, like I said, I'm trying to see if there's anything that I've missed along the way. Okay. We said, let me get into Ruben Amorim. We talked about him. He knows that, especially after the result, he knows that he's on the hot seat. The manager of Manchester United can never, no matter what, be comfortable. I know that if we don't win, regardless of the fact they pay a buyout fee for me, every manager here is in danger, and I like that. It's the job. You can argue that I've been here 1 month and I've had 4 training sessions, but we're not winning. That is the reality, and I'm quite comfortable with that. So, big quote from Amorim this morning. And he said every coach is in danger. So, not necessarily a surprise, but hearing that from Ruben Amorim this morning. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, what to watch, where to watch, and how to watch it before we get out of here. Remember, Monday, back in studio, back in Atlanta, and thanks for hanging out with us all week long and putting up with the internet issues and everything. And we'll be back in Atlanta on Monday as we get you ready for 2025. Liverpool are confident Virgil van Dijk, who's out of contract in the summer, will sign a new 2-year deal with the club. Real Madrid are not interested in signing Van Dijk this summer, despite reports linking them to the Dutchman. Oh, I also got to get into the MLS Next Pro thing, too. Bayern Munich left back Alphonso Davies open to a Premier League move this summer. Manchester United, Liverpool among the clubs interested. Manchester United have set an initial asking price of around £50 million for Marcus Rashford. Arsenal monitoring Mateus Cunha, who could become available if the Midlands club are relegated to the Championship. However, Vitor Pereira is hopeful the club can keep Cunha. Pep Guardiola and the Manchester City board will discuss which signings they'll try to make in the January transfer window this week. Monaco's French winger Magnus Akliouche is one of Manchester City's targets, but Atletico Madrid, PSG, Inter Milan, Newcastle are also interested. Antony has had offers to leave Manchester United in January, but the club do not want the 24-year-old to depart, according to his agent. That's from our friends at Gimme Sport. Crystal Palace's fullback Danny Imre is wanted by several championship and League One promotion chasers looking to sign him on loan for the second half of the campaign. And Danny Olmo's agent has arrived in Manchester with Premier League clubs, including United and City, potentially looking to take advantage of the struggle to register him. That's from the 4-letter paper. Agent Andy Barra said he's in Manchester on holiday rather than on business. But who's to say that you can't take care of business on holiday? 4-letter paper. Take the information at your own peril. Liverpool first-team coach John Heitinga leading the list of candidates to replace Carlos Corberán at West Brom. Fiorentina interested in Parma 25-year-old French fullback Woyo Koulibaly. That's from Matteo Moretto, and that is out of the Italian papers this morning. So, that's the latest there. According to BBC, it looks like there's going to be more Scottish Championship matches on the way. New weekly highlights show featuring the best of action from Championship, League One, and League Two. So BBC Sport is expanding their coverage into the SPFL. I'm sure I have a release in there somewhere. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to get into this morning, other than what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it, let me dial that up before I forget, was an article that came out of Sportico. And this is a bit of a deep dive, but it's something to keep an eye on. You know how in minor league baseball, you had one group that basically just like bought up a bunch of minor league baseball teams, and it was just part of their deal. and that's part of our portfolio, and here's who we are, and, forget it. And we're going to own like every minor league baseball team known to mankind. Article in Sportico came out, and it was really interesting to see this come to the fore. In the article at Sportico, and this is probably requested reading, from Eben Novi Williams, Diamond Baseball Holdings might be leaning in toward MLS Next Pro as their next place to go and buy up or have a whole lot of franchises. Right now, Diamond owns about 1/3 of all of the minor league baseball teams in the MILB. So the investment group, which is owned by Silver Lake, has discussed the possibility of rolling up Next Pro teams in a similar manner, according to multiple people familiar with the details. Diamond isn't alone. A group led by former NYCFC president Tom Glick has had similar conversations over the past few months, both with individual owners and the league itself, said the people who are granted anonymity because the details are private. The outreach has focused on the potential commercial opportunities for the lower division circuit. One, providing clubs with a bridge between their youth academies and their first-year clubs and exposing new markets and new fans to professional soccer, and in particular pro soccer within the MLS family. Talks remain preliminary. No guarantee that a deal of any sort will be reached. Owners would likely push to retain control of the sporting side of the business, giving them control over coaching, hires, and player decisions, according to the sources. Charles Altchek said in a statement, quote, "We have ambitious plans for MLS Next Pro, committed to identifying and capitalizing on new opportunities, considering and have met with potential strategic investors that align with our goals to further accelerate MLS Next Pro's growth and success." So the way things are right now, of the 29 teams that played last year, 27 affiliated with MLS clubs, 2 that are not, Carolina Core and Chattanooga FC. Remember when we went up and covered Chattanooga FC's transfer over from NISA to Next Pro, and we caught up with Commissioner Altchek and got his thoughts. One of the things that they wanted to do was have independent ownership. They wanted to have dudes independent of ties to parent clubs in Major League Soccer. They wanted to have other locations that are attached to the league, and they wanted to have independent owners. Excuse me. Diamond originally launched in 21 by Endeavor. Less than a year later, sold to Silver Lake for $280 million following objections from MLBPA, which claimed a conflict of interest. So the group's portfolio has expanded to more than 40 baseball clubs, including recently Rancho Cucamonga and the Brooklyn Cyclones. So that put them over the 1/3 of minor league baseball of MILB. Glick, once again, Chief Commercial Officer of City Football Group, most recently President of Tepper Sports and Entertainment. And so everyone is tied to MLS clubs, except for Carolina Core, Chattanooga FC. Jacksonville Armada coming online with Connecticut FC, Connecticut United, and Cleveland Pro Soccer. Those are coming in 26. West Michigan Soccer was announced last week, and that's going to be in Grand Rapids in 27. So that would take the number to 33 and 6 that would be owned independent of what's going on with the MLS franchises. So keep an eye on that. So just like I said, just something to kind of put a bookmark in when it comes to what you're seeing in MLS Next Pro. It could be the next frontier when it comes to the multi-ownership model and things like that. So, like I said, just put a bookmark in that as we go forward. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it today. It is 3:15 Eastern, Arsenal and Ipswich. That is on USA, simulcast on Universo. On the Plus at 2:40, Anderlecht and Denver, the Belgian Pro League. NBCSports.com has Arsenal and Ipswich, and on Peacock at 2:30, it is Brighton and Hove Albion and Brentford. Tomorrow, CBS Sports Network has Serie A at 9 a.m., Fox Deportes Serie A at 2:45, Golasso Network, 3 matches in Serie A, 9, noon, and 2:45. Major Arena Soccer League doubleheader on Golasso Network at 7 and 10. Paramount Plus has Serie A, 2 matches at 9, MASL at 7 and 10. And don't forget, you can get Fanatis, ftz.co/soccer down here. And you can get all the BNs. You can watch Ligue 1. You can catch up with Caleb Wiley at Strasbourg as he continues his loan season as he recovers from injury. You can get to TIC, Nuestra Tele for the fans, CDO, Liga 1 Max, Liga 1 Max Pro, all of those. You can get that at Fanatis, ftz.co/soccer down here. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. And so you can continue your degenerate nature there as well. Thanks for all the kind words on social media for the boss, as she is one wing to the recovery. And so we're going to go to the next stages of that and find out what's going on. But we'll be back in studio on Monday, getting you ready for the end of 2024, getting you ready for the beginning of 2025. Thanks to Kaylor Hodges for dropping in today on a Friday, considering that he was on the road before Christmas for his normal Tuesday time slot. So it was really cool for Kaylor to come and join us on a Friday as he gets ready for the end of the week. So as always, thanks for dropping by. Thanks for being a part of things as you always are. And for everybody here at STH, once again, just remember, as our friend Sergeant Phil Esterhouse is always one to tell you.
Let's be careful on it.
Once it loads. Maybe it'll load. Who knows? You try to say something, you try to be nice, doesn't load. Slow internet speeds. Talk to them. Maybe we can get them to help things out. Just saying. Well, maybe if we tried this, we do it again. Maybe.
Careful on it.
We'll see. No. Yes, no, maybe, no. Of course not. Try to load. Try to do something fancy and nice before you try to get out of here for the week. And so maybe we'll try this, and we'll see if this loads. We'll see if maybe we'll see if something will load before we go. How about this?
War was on. The keys on the typewriter had sharp points.
Spinning wheels of
sticking into our fingers.
Spinning wheels of doom.
Dictating equipment started asking us questions, and our beepers sent electric shocks just through our body like.
Okay. So it might be playing, it may not. I can't hear it. I just see the spinning wheel of doom. All right, we're out. Enjoy your weekend. Weather's supposed to be nasty, and it fits. So anyway, play it safe, everybody. We're out of here. I'm going to end this and end it quick before it goes completely and totally out of control. I can't hear a thing. You guys can. I can't. And that way I can't gauge it. Yes, I know. How will you know it's the weekend? Because I said so. It's the weekend. We're out of here. Mucho platiao. Bye.